This is a rune that drives everyone crazy.
Once used,
you can obtain
A skill similar to a shockwave, but after obtaining it,
the man
threw it to someone else without hesitation. Although other people in this world can absorb an unlimited number of skills,
having returned from death.
he clearly knows that he can only absorb 7. However, his 7 skills can evolve infinitely.
Therefore,
These 7 runes must be chosen carefully, and just 2.5 minutes ago,
was
caught in the deadly bite of a giant snake, unpanicked,
pulled out,
a dagger and stabbed it into its lower jaw. As it opened its mouth to roar in pain,
managed to break free,
Plus, had already stabbed 3 daggers into its body earlier.
and each own was coated with deadly poison.
now,
As the poison took effect, it began to tremble all over, seemingly unable to hold on because I had previously absorbed many stamina runes. My wounds would slowly heal on their own. Clearly knew that although poison would be completely useless against the monsters that appear later, it was the most effective method of attack in the early stages.
soon.
The giant snake stopped struggling and lost its life.
At this time, my 3 teammates also.
Hurried over and asked if I was okay, but I did not answer immediately. Instead, asked why they had come back again,
Meishi said they came to check on me because they were worried.
and asked if my arm was alright. Told her it was just a minor scratch, and the wound would heal itself in a moment. Meanwhile, Taesung looked at the giant snake lying on the ground.
Too shocked to speak,
He could not fathom that I had.
single-handedly killed this monster.
It was only then that he realized the insurmountable gap between us.
Next,
Started rummaging through the giant snake's corpse. Before long, pulled out a shockwave skill rune belonging to the barbed snake. If combined with a magic rune, this rune would be very useful in the early stages. Since I had not absorbed a magic rune, could not use it yet, but I did not want to absorb this kind of skill rune anyway. When Taesung came over to ask about it, clearly told him I would not use this rune. However, as soon as I finished speaking,
Shangjin behind me asked if I could give the rune to him.
hearing this, Taesung directly shoved Shangjin aside, saying it would be better to give it to him than to this weakling.
Shangjin asked him,
Do not you already have own?
Taesung replied,
You were shivering in fear in the back the whole time? What use is it to give it to you? Seeing that the two were about to
Start fighting again.
Meishi hurriedly stepped forward to mediate, but her efforts were not very effective.
Just as they were about to come to blows,
Stop them. Then I said, I never mentioned giving this to them.
was going to sell it. If you buy it now,
I can give you a 5% discount.
The 3 of them were stunned for a moment, then asked if they could pay in installments. Said that would require a guarantor.
Why do not you guarantee for each other?
After discussing it for a while, they finally decided to let Liu Meishi have the rune. This result was exactly what I expected, because those 2 guys did not trust each other at all. So she was the only on left.
plus,
Had noticed earlier that she had absorbed a magic rune. After the 3 of them gave the runes to Liu Meishi, she walked up to me and said they had pooled together 3 agility runes and 3 perception runes, along with 7 stamina and 7 strength runes.
however,
Charged her own less strength rune, because I had already promised them a 5% discount. Hearing this, Liu Meishi commented on how strict I was.
I turned around.
Told them,
not to think I was going too far.
if you get used to getting something for nothing in a place like this,
You will lose your lives very quickly later on.
where in this world is there a trade that does not require a price? Although Liu Meishi felt my words were harsh, she also knew that they were completely right. After saying that, started looking around for something. The presence of a barbed snake here meant there had to be Juteron ore nearby. Earlier, when I was fighting the barbed snake, had already noticed the ore over here. After crouching down, first gathered some and then started messing around with it continuously.
Seeing this,
The 2 behind me wondered,
What kind of thing I was making with my superpowers again?
unable to contain their curiosity. They stepped forward to look, only to find that the metal in my hand seemed pliable, and I was kneading the metal into the shape of a spike. Once it was shaped, quickly stood up and pulled out the dagger I had previously stabbed into the giant snake.
by now,
They were all anticipating.
What kind of amazing thing I would make this time?
next,
Scooped out some of the giant snake's internal organs. Seeing this,
Taesung asked if I was making poison again this time.
told him this time was different, but did not specify what I was doing.
The barbed snake's scales.
Although,
Very hard.
could not be used directly as a weapon. Based on the knowledge I learned in my past life, needed to use the barbed snake's organs combined with its scales.
To solidify the malleable metal ore,
Although the damage range of needle-type weapons is very small, and they can't cause secondary damage like bleeding,
as long as you know the opponent's
weakness and have the ability to pierce it in own strike.
the needle is the strongest weapon.
However,
Because I shaped it by hand.
Its tip was not sharp enough, then picked up my dagger and struck it against the needle, finding that its durability was quite strong.
to make a relatively powerful weapon using low-tier materials obtained in the initial stage,
Those alchemists in my past life had put in a lot of effort as I sharpened it with the dagger. Thought to myself that with this weapon now, when I go to get the second hidden fragment later, could successfully break through that guy's defense. Then I wrapped it with some cloth strips to make a hilt, and this weapon was finally complete. At this time, Taesung came over again and asked me if I would sell the weapon in my hand.
he offered to give me all the runes he had on him.
Seeing how carefully I had made this weapon just now, he guessed this thing must be very strong. At least several times stronger than the weapon in his hand. Told him that although I really wanted to sell it, the solution was used up and I could not make a second own. Seeing that I would not sell it to him,
Taesung,
cursed me inwardly for being a selfish jerk.
however,
Thinking that there might be even better things coming up,
He chose to just endure it for now.
besides, this place looked like the final destination at a glance because the subway not only had electricity but was also very clean.
plus,
Seeing that I, who had been on guard the whole time,
was now a bit more relaxed.
He guessed there was no danger here.
Only rewards.
Right after I stepped into the subway car.
They wanted to follow me inside, but I suddenly stopped them and asked them what they were coming up for. Then I said only one person could come up here.
You guys go down.
Seeing them still standing there, unmoving,
Repeated what I just said.
the three of them looked at the spacious seats beside me. Very confused,
It is so spacious in here.
Are you mistaken?
How can only one person come up?
and just because you tell us to go down,
We have to. We have fought together up to this point.
why are you suddenly acting like a dictator?
They even added that they had helped me quite a bit along the way.
Upon hearing this,
Only found it laughable. Although these guys knew how to follow me and made the wise choice to seize the opportunity,
They still did not understand own basic truth.
it seemed that I needed to teach them this lesson personally. So I stood up, picked up my weapon, and said,
of course,
There is no rule here saying you can't come up.
then, heavily tapping the other end of the weapon on the ground, said, after all, there are no laws in this world.
Now,
We'll give you two choices.
either go down.
Or come up and fight me.
With that,
Suddenly raised my weapon by the spiked end, pointing the hilt in their direction, and told them to make their choice quickly. Having no other choice, they had to get off the train and watched helplessly as the subway doors slowly began to close. My actions just now made Taesung very displeased. Listening to my tone sounded exactly like some 40-something-year-old man.
suddenly,
He thought that if the three of them attacked me together,
They might actually have a chance of winning.
if they could win,
Then my
Weapon and runes would all belong to him.
even if he lost,
he could just apologize later.
He figured I would not actually kill them all just like that.
Thinking of this,
his hand started.
to slowly reach for his own weapon, but the next second, when he looked up, his heart suddenly trembled because he saw killing intent on my expressionless face. That kind of look was even more terrifying than the goblins from earlier. He could feel that if he moved even an inch more just now,
Would definitely kill him without hesitation.
just before the subway doors closed, told them,
Then I will see you up there. Me, Meishi.
who was more reasonable,
said that it was them who made unreasonable requests in the first place.
if it were not for me,
They would not have made it this far at all.
so Liu Meishi believed they should have listened to me to begin with.
Then she turned and told the other two to hurry up and head out. But Taesung did not think so. He thought those two idiots
We're worthless exactly because of this mindset.
was it wrong to want to become stronger?
At this moment,
only the thought of getting stronger remained in his mind. For this goal, he would use any means necessary.
Meanwhile,
Sat in the subway, starting to organize the intel I had gained from my past life. First, this subway would pass through 20 stations, and it would stop at each own. Second, a random artifact would appear at every station. Third, you could not return to the stations you had already passed. I knew that even if I rode it to the last station, there might not necessarily be anything good. So I had to choose carefully and quit while I was ahead. But I had already reached the 12th station now.
Those weapons from before were all
Obtained through the hidden fragments,
so they were all pretty good.
Lauren's ring alone could not only enhance perception,
but could also vaguely predict the weaknesses of monsters.
this was incredibly practical in the early stages. However, had already mastered the weaknesses of almost all monsters. So these weapons were not of much help to me.
Besides, already had a weapon.
What I needed now was something else. For example, a foundation stone or something similar.
At this point,
After the subway arrived at another
Station.
Slowly stepped off the carriage.
when I saw the item this time, was stunned for a moment.
because there was actually a box of Madman's Cloud cookies sitting on the pedestal.
Did not expect this kind of item to spawn here.
From the very first bite of this thing,
Your rune multipliers would slowly rise. The longer you chewed, the longer your rune stats would increase.
Once you finished chewing and swallowed it.
You would gain a 10-minute buff that increases all stats by 20%. Seeing this, decisively picked it up. This was exactly what I wanted. Although this thing could not be used outside the tutorial area, there was nothing better than this. While still in here, this item really brought back memories.
Before,
Whenever I ate this,
that woman would
pop out and complain about why I was eating it again. She also said this kind of thing did not suit me. In this life, must become stronger and stop this disaster. After getting the cookies, turned and left. When I walked out of the subway and returned to the initial station, found it completely empty. Figured those guys must have already gone out on their own. There were still 4 days left before the next fragment appeared.
If I wanted to level up quickly,
Either had to focus on hunting and collecting runes, or challenge the remaining quests to get rewards. Although the difficulty of the quests and what would appear were randomly unknown. Just had to start slowly with the quests that offered good rewards. At this time, thought of a quest that had very generous rewards and could be completed quickly. Upon completing this quest, you could obtain a Philosopher's Stone forged by a novice mage. It could simultaneously increase all of the user's abilities and stats by 10 and could instantly heal fatal wounds. This kind of artifact was very hard to get in the tutorial area, and even in the red zone.
however,
The contents of this quest.
only a madman would actually do it.
What I knew from my past life was that
A girl named Anbi Arin originally went to a prison to volunteer, only to be inexplicably dragged into the abyss.
She used to be very nice to the people in that prison.
And everyone was friends. But after being betrayed by everyone, right at the start of the tutorial, her traits awakened out of pure fury in just 7 days.
She slaughtered all the criminals.
And even dug out their hearts. In the end, just as she had gone completely insane and was preparing to end her own life,
This quest suddenly popped up. My purpose for regressing this time is
to save as many people as possible.
So I will just save this quest for later.
When I looked up at the time and saw it was already night, suddenly remembered a pretty good quest called
the selfish rich man's food jar.
Then I needed to stock up on some stamina first.
So get that thing under the moonlight?
Was definitely going to be very busy next. Just as I walked back to the convenience store to get something to eat, found that it had been completely looted.
Even the things I had previously buried.
In the dirt had all been dug up.
The moon was about to rise soon.
For them to dare do something so bold at a time like like this. Then let me go and see just how bold they really are. The scene shifted to the entrance of the subway station. A group of people was constantly moving supplies out. Meanwhile,
Mimi's group only dared
to watch from a distance, not daring to step forward and stop them, even the supplies in their own hands, had been snatched away by this group. At this time,
Shang Zhen analyzed the situation,
saying that although our side was strong too, the other side outnumbered us by several times. Even if our stat levels were higher than theirs, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. This could not help but shock the blonde girl behind him, because she had never heard Shang Zhen say so much in on breath before. But what confused Lu Meishi was how this group of people managed to find the convenience store when they finished moving the stuff and were preparing to leave. The man leading them suddenly turned around and gave them a smiling greeting, while the others were confused.
Only Taesung panicked
When the blonde girl asked if that man was greeting them,
Taesung hastily denied it.
saying the other party was just provoking them. Then he added that there was no need to clash
With those guys?
and suggested they leave. Since they took everything away,
We will just have to look elsewhere.
after he turned and took a few steps, what the others did not notice was the cold sweat breaking out on his face. Taesung cursed the stupid idiot in his heart for waving at him.
Because before that,
Taesung had secretly gone to meet them alone and told them the intel about the convenience store.
on the second basement level of the subway.
He even offered to lead the way for them. The leading man did not believe Taesung at first, thinking it was a trap set up by me and him. But in the next second, Taesung grabbed him directly with own hand and lifted him up. The man was about to fight back, only to be met with Taesung's massive fist smashing into his face.
This single strike directly sent him flying 2.5 meters away.
This punch instantly shattered the man's arrogant attitude. Taesung then said,
I am no longer on.
"The same level as you idiots. Why would I bother digging a trap to ambush weaklings trashier than myself?" Back to the present, the group found a small room near the subway entrance to rest.
When Liu Meishi saw me come out,
she called me over.
Seeing me return gave her an inexplicable sense of security. The guilty Taesung kept telling himself not to be nervous. After all, no one knew it was him who did it. After I walked in, Meishi said that while they went to pick up Ji-sun and young Ji-Y, that group of guys from earlier had completely looted the convenience store inside the subway station. After hearing this, asked them how much food they had left. Meishi pointed to the food on the table and said there was not much left. The situation was urgent at the time, so they only managed to grab a little. At this point,
Taesung chimed in,
saying it could not be helped.
Since you're back,
Why do not you just go and take it back now? Though going by yourself,
You might not be able to beat them.
did not answer his question,
Just chuckled lightly.
and said, "Let us eat something first." Being ignored and mocked by me once again made Taesung grit his teeth in anger. Then he ran over, slammed his hand on the table in front of me, and said,
"That won't do."
he claimed this food was something they had risked their lives to snatch, and that if I wanted to eat, had to pay the corresponding price, or take something out to trade for it.
Hearing this,
Liu Meishi asked Taesung what was wrong with him.
Did not we bring these things so we could eat together? But Taesung still refused to let me eat for free, and added that it was me who previously said you can't get something for nothing.
young Gu, who was beside them,
Also nodded in agreement.
Taesung thought to himself that he had to seize the leadership at this moment.
As long as everyone agreed with what he
Said,
Would have nothing to say.
He just wanted to see how long I could keep up my arrogant attitude now.
As a result,
directly told him I had
nothing to trade with him for the food. Taesung obviously did not believe it upon hearing this. He then suggested I could use the things I got from down below to trade. Hearing this,
Young Yu curiously asked what I had obtained down there. Immediately following that,
Taesung quickly answered,
Saying that when I was down there,
entered a mysterious space.
So I must have gotten a lot of good stuff.
naturally.
you should let everyone use it.
So share it with us.
We have to keep traveling together anyway.
Saying that,
he even handed me a piece of chocolate.
after hearing what he said, chuckled lightly.
Again and said,
You sure learn fast?
But he did not know that trades could only,
happen when there was order or inequality in strength.
even less did he know that I was not traveling with,
Them, because I needed them.
The runes in their hands
were entirely optional to me.
only brought them along
Because of what Eris said.
But I have already done my best.
Do not have time to play games with them anymore.
After leaving them a final warning, got up and walked out.
Seeing this,
Young Yu first urged everyone to stop arguing, then told Liu Meishi that she should.
Go with him to call me back.
However, Taesung stepped in and told them not to stop me. It was my own choice to leave. He believed that once I was gone,
He could be the boss here.
but the two women did not listen to him at all.
Ignoring his protests,
They insisted on heading for the door.
Seeing Liu Meishi about to leave, Taesung quickly asked what she was doing.
Are you going to abandon us and follow that guy?
Liu Meishi stood there and hesitated for a moment, then decisively ran out of the store and grabbed the hem of my coat.
She asked if I could take her with me.
Her eyes were filled with anticipation as she asked, and her heart was pounding uncontrollably.
But I simply said I could not take her with me.
Hearing this,
Mise's mood hit rock bottom.
And her hand naturally let go of my coat. At that exact moment, added another sentence.
had said it before.
Whether you can keep up or not is your own business. Upon hearing this, Meishi's sorrow instantly turned to joy. But then, Taesung came out to interfere again, saying she could not leave.
His reason was that, although she had paid back her share of runes,
Shang Zhen had not yet paid his.
To his surprise, however,
Shang Zhen
Spoke up from behind him.
saying it did not matter, because Shang Zhen also chose to follow me. He tried to walk out. He was blocked by Taesung. Taesung asked him if he knew what he was saying.
So you think my father will let your father off the hook?
Reached out and saved you when you should have been on the streets.
and now you dare to defy me.
But this time, Shang Zhen was different from before. He said, we might never be able to leave this place.
The people outside do not even know we are still alive. So how are you going to tell your father?
None of that matters anymore. You do not need to obey your every command anymore.
After saying that, He bypassed Taesung and continued walking toward me.
Taesung never imagined that.
His former lackey would actually dare to talk back to him. He roared for us to all get lost, saying the food was all here anyway.
He was certain that after we left,
We would not have it any better than staying here.
He even believed we would eventually return to beg for his mercy. After we had walked a short distance away, Shangzhen asked if it was really okay not to bring any food. Notice what looked like a clothing store nearby.
While changing into a new set of clothes.
Told Shangzhen it did not matter. Everything Taesung was doing was meaningless.
Hearing this,
The two of them turned around and found that I had changed into a brand new outfit. Told them we had things to do and to hurry up. After walking a bit longer, Shangzhen still could not understand what I was thinking. He felt that since I obviously possessed such immense power, why not just directly seize Taesung's food?
If something happened to me,
Following me would be a huge loss for him. Only needed one glance at him to know what he was thinking. His thoughts were practically written all over his face. But I could not blame him. After all, he knew nothing about the moon. Seeing that the time was about right, stopped in my tracks and said midnight was approaching. The two were stunned,
not understanding what I meant.
but when Lu Meishi looked up, she was suddenly startled. She saw that the moon seemed a bit strange. It had been hanging normally in the sky, but upon closer observation, it seemed as if something on its surface was about to crack open. In the next second, your pupil actually opened up on the moon. The entire moon had turned into a giant eyeball.
After the apocalypse,
While everyone else was frantically looting food from supermarkets,
Chose to hunt monsters and cook them.
because as a regressor, knew clearly that when the moon rose, the food in people's hands would turn to sand.
furthermore,
Everyone would emit a faint white light, visible to others even through walls. The glow only fades within a certain proximity. Behind.
Sang-jin asked if I knew this all along.
but I just smiled and claimed I had no idea. At that moment,
From the surrounding buildings came bursts of fighting and heated arguments. It seemed they were all driven by suspicion.
due to the sudden disappearance of their food,
Mihi suddenly realized the implication.
if everyone
Can see each other's exact positions.
Is not this just an invitation for a massacre?
Had warned them not to take too much food, because only personally claimed food would vanish. Anything left behind or undiscovered remained unaffected. With that, led the two toward my destination. Meanwhile,
Taesung,
who had kicked us out, stared at the sand on the table in disbelief.
Young Kui asked him what they should do now.
Should they go out and look for more food?
Ji-sun spoke up from behind.
Pointing out that all the convenience store food was gone.
Taesung realized that I must have
Known this would happen in advance, which was why I left without taking any food. Suddenly,
Young Kui let out a scream.
telling Taesung to look outside immediately,
A crowd had gathered on the street.
searching,
On closer look,
It was the same gang Taesung.
tipped off to empty the convenience store earlier, but there were even more of them than before. Taesung knew if they attacked all at once, he would not stand a chance of winning.
sensing danger,
Young Kui suggested finding me.
But the prideful Taesung naturally refused.
Young Kui told him to look at the reality.
If they stayed there any longer, they might not even survive being found. But knowing Taesung's stubborn personality, she gave him a graceful way out, saying that if the gang could not find them, they would surely go after Hansu
Would not it be great to follow them?
and help Hansu out when the time comes.
Taesung.
swayed by flattery.
Seemed moved,
He thought making me owe him a favor.
Was actually a pretty good idea.
just as he prepared to escape through the back door and took Owen's step out. His feet were suddenly ensnared by green liquid. Losing his balance, he tumbled to the ground. But when he tried to break free, he found it was absolutely impossible.
He shouted for Young Kui and Ji-sun.
So pick him up and run immediately. At that moment, Someone appeared on the street, asking if taking that guy was really worth it and how far they thought they could get like that.
The speaker was the leader of the gang from before. The two women, who were already wavering,
Felt his words made a lot of sense.
they decisively abandoned Taesung and fled.
The boss knelt down and told Taesung to shut up.
Explaining the stuff on his feet was 5-wheel glue.
We were not idling while you were busy.
With our numbers,
We get decent drops.
he then asked why there were only 3 of them, and where the other 3 had gone. Seeing Taesung's defiance, he raised his right leg and slammed it into the hard asphalt, leaving a massive crater in the ground.
This terrified the arrogant Taesung.
He thought he was the only own.
Hunting monsters and farming runes. But the man before him was clearly stronger. He immediately dropped his bravado and offered to tell them everything he knew, even offering to lead them to us. Seeing the young man's quick wit,
The boss was actually quite pleased.
but first,
He said his brother had a word to say.
the man with the gold chain, Taesung, punched, became instantly excited at those words. He had not dared to fight back earlier because Taesung's stats were much higher than his. But now with the boss backing him up,
He had absolutely nothing to fear.
even then, Taesung was still blaming us, thinking if we had not left him there, he would not be in such a miserable state. But before they started the beating,
The boss told him to show some mercy.
they needed him to lead them to the fortune. He spoke. Boots began to rain down relentlessly onto Taesung's body while being beaten.
Taesung vowed that
Given the chance,
He would definitely kill us. When Young Kui and Ji-sun found us,
They froze.
they saw that not only did we have food, but it was a feast of various meats. It did not look like an apocalypse, but a campsite. Inwardly,
They cursed me for being despicable.
knowing the food would vanish, yet failing to warn them about it. But having gone without food for so long, they decided to swallow their pride.
And try to share the meal with me?
The moment they took a single step forward, my hand was already gripping my weapon. In a flash, appeared right in front
Of Young Kui, blocking her path.
and carved a deep trench into the ground. Young Kui was startled by my action and demanded to know what I was doing. Told her not to cross that line.
She shouted back.
Calling me childish, saying it was Taesung who argued.
Not them.
Finally, she asked what would happen if she insisted on crossing the line anyway. Just turned back and told her coldly that my ability showed me the outcome. Would be very bad if they crossed over.
From my gaze,
It was not hard for them to see that I truly might kill them, then warn them that staying here would soon become very dangerous. Sensing something wrong,
They turned around.
only to see the gang catching up to them.
The boss's eyes were like dark.
Ink-filled pools, narrowed until all emotion was a needle of light. It was not warmth, but the chill leaking from a barrel
Just before the trigger is pulled,
in the dark night.
he furrowed her brows.
Her gaze flickering with 1,000 worries. Stood with my back turned.
a cold silhouette
In truth,
had deliberately lured them here to complete a specific quest.
the task seemed simple enough. During the time the moon was risen, cook and eat as much of this food as possible. But there was a harsh additional condition: to be greedy, sharing with no on. Cook and consume the most dishes alone. The reward only goes to the on who eats most, and it must be done while everyone else
Is driven mad with hunger for food.
overcoming all obstacles to eat greedily alone.
So,
Under the gaze of the crowd, slowly pierced a piece of meat with my dagger and calmly put it into my mouth.
then,
Battered Taesung stumbled over. He immediately began furiously questioning Young Kui and Ji-sun for abandoning him,
Young Kui stammered an explanation.
saying she went to get help. But Taesung did not believe a word of it. He blamed everyone else for his misfortune. The gang boss patted his shoulder, telling him to calm down, and Taesung fell silent instantly. The boss stepped forward, asking where the meat was, pointed to the hunted prey behind me, saying the place was full of meat.
Do I really need to teach you what meat is?
They were shocked to see me eating monster meat, because they had tried it before. But those test subjects suffered severe toxicity, and were still dealing with diarrhea.
Yet, looking at me now,
Having eaten so much without any side effects, the boss assumed I knew how to prep it, so he advised me to be a good boy. Before he finished, told him straight out, boil it in goblin blood first. Then it is edible. He clearly did not expect me to be
so straightforward with the information.
moreover,
He had learned from Taesung that I possessed supernatural powers, and took many rewards from the subway station.
He thought there was no better time to kill me.
Though he guessed I might be strong,
He had numbers on his side.
he did not believe a 20-year-old youth
Could possibly take them all down.
Besides, even if I was skilled against monsters, that did not necessarily translate to humans,
He called Taesung over.
and ordered him to taste the meat first, though Taesung hated being ordered around.
He had no choice in his current state.
As Tae-sung began to approach,
Slowly stood up, but Taesung did not stop his advance. He thought if I had any brains,
would not.
dare to strike in front of so many people? He also doubted I could handle such a crowd. At that moment,
me, he shouted out.
urging him not to cross the line. But Taesung ignored her and kept walking. The moment he stepped over that line, silently apologized to heirs in my heart, and swung my sword toward the leg that had dared to cross the boundary. It was so fast he fell before feeling the pain. He trembled,
trying to push himself up,
but could not feel the existence of his foot. Only when he saw his foot was no longer attached did the intense agony surge through his body. This scene terrified the gang members, causing them to instinctively back away. Even Young Kui and Ji-sun were shocked. Be the brutality of my action.
Me simply chose to close her eyes.
Taesung roared,
Asking if it was just meat. Was it necessary to go this far over a meal?
He then began to instigate the others.
A guy who treats friends like this over food. Do you think he will spare you once he is stronger?
He will kill you all just for your runes.
Kill him now.
If you miss this chance,
You never will.
You bunch of idiots.
Hearing this, the boss signaled the gold chain guy to prepare for an assault. Seeing my move earlier, he wanted to say something, but he realized if they did not fight me now,
They would have no escape once I grew stronger.
besides, they were all armed, and glowing under the moon there was no hiding. But when their eyes met mine, they could not help but shiver instinctively. Wondering what my background really was, looking at them reminded me of when Ares and Cadian first started working together. They often argued due to disagreements, said not to make enemies lightly. Cadian's philosophy was that once you find an enemy,
You must pull them up by the roots.
otherwise, they will eventually cause trouble. And I both agreed on that last point. Thinking of this, slowly raised my arm and summoned all my runes for them to see. The crowd, previously filled with fear, was now completely blinded by greed. Upon seeing such a vast collection of runes, a single thought remained in their hearts.
Kill me and split my hoard of loot.
Did not wait for them to charge. Lunged forward, closing the distance, just as the gold chain guy realized that my speed was unnaturally fast.
The long needle in my hand struck his shoulder,
Then darted instantly to another man, knocking him unconscious with own strike. The boss could not believe his eyes. 2 of his men were down in a split second. Seeing this, the others turned to flee. The boss tried to stabilize them,
shouting to stay.
but the terrified lackeys would not listen. In moments, he was left standing alone,
The boss remained somewhat resilient.
pulling out a dagger to face me.
While threatening me.
Do you think you can?
Live in peace after killing people. This is not like killing monsters. But before he could finish,
His expression darkened.
Because he saw my silhouette.
vanishing right before his eyes,
When he saw me again,
Was at his side.
in a single instant, stabbed into his body over a dozen times.
Finally, he collapsed.
Unable to utter a word. Stared at the blood on my fingertips.
Strands of hair grazing my brow.
Blue eyes like a frozen storm.
Then I rounded up the slower underlings and dealt with them all own by own,
Young Kui and Ji-sun watched everything.
feeling as though it were all a dream. After finishing the last on, asked,
Why the 2 of them were still standing there?
did they want to fight as well?
they snapped out of it, exchanged a look, and fled without another word.
With them gone,
Sat back down and continued eating the meat from the pot.
Seeing me, he staring at me.
Asked what was wrong.
Any problem.
Inwardly,
I thought.
Even if you keep staring.
I'm not sharing any with you.
Me, he scratched her chin awkwardly and said nothing.
so for the rest of the time, just kept eating, while the 2 of them watched helplessly. Until the first ray of sunlight hit the ground, and the moon in the sky began to move.
Its crescent narrowed further.
It returned to the familiar moon we knew.
This time,
Ate roughly 3 days worth of food.
though the human-oriented quests failed,
Looking at what I gained,
it was well worth it.
subspace pocket. It keeps everything inside fresh and protects food from the moonlight's effect.
Checked. It could hold about 2 weeks worth of my food. As I prepared to lead the 2 away,
Me, he.
Suddenly came to a halt. She asked if it was really okay to just
Wound them without killing them.
what if they come after us later?
hearing this,
Turned back with a smile, teasingly saying, "You are quite a scary woman."
Mihi's face turned red instantly.
Dennying it, saying she only asked because she was worried, but she knew even if they recovered, they were no match for me, because the speed of my growth was just too fast. Hearing her thoughts, realized she was beginning to adapt to this world. Though she did not say it out loud, I knew she wanted to ask why I did not.
kill them and absorb their runes.
Main goal in this regression was to save as many humans as possible, to reduce chaos and foster cooperation. The most urgent task was establishing rules. The first thing I needed to show them was that On should not commit atrocities for runes. Though this rule can't be enforced on all yet, as long as a strong person sets the standard, it becomes much easier to implement.
Therefore,
I cannot be seen killing indiscriminately. After walking a while, Sang Jin suddenly stopped, saying he would stop here. He felt it was becoming too difficult to keep up with our pace. Did not try to make him stay, because I said from the very beginning that I would respect their personal choices.
After he left,
Turned to Mihi, saying she could leave whenever she wanted.
Are Renti not you afraid of me after these few days?
Mihi was stunned by the question, though she was terrified by my cold gaze. During the heat of battle,
she also knew clearly that she was safe.
As long as she did not cross my boundary.
after a moment of silence,
She spoke.
If I leave,
"You won't take me back."
So I will follow you as far as I possibly can.
The slight clatter of the scabbard against trousers was like a taut string between the 2. She stood in the fragmented sunlight, her voice trembling like water-soaked paper.
finally.
Turned and said, "Then follow me," then led her back toward the subway station.
Meanwhile, Tae-sung woke up from his coma.
Struggling to push off the bodies on top of him, cursing the gang for being useless trash. He thought I had made a mistake not killing him. With his recovery speed,
He would be healed soon.
then he would have his revenge.
Hez he crawled.
Someone blocked his path. He looked up and found it was Sang Jin. He quickly told Sang Jin to help him up, saying that since everyone around them
Had lost the ability to fight.
this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
If we kill them all now,
All these runes will be ours. The boss cursed him through gritted teeth, but he was in no position to threaten Tae-sung. Tae-sung ordered Sang Jin to kill that guy first, but to his surprise,
Sang Jin.
walked over and grabbed his collar instead.
even more surprising was Sang Jin's strength.
Since when had it become so immense?
When he saw Sang Jin's cold, murderous eyes,
He realized something was very wrong.
he tried to resist, but was met only by a cold dagger piercing his skin. The bloody dagger hit the ground.
Sang Jin.
Having killed for the first time, knelt and vomited uncontrollably.
Then he decisively punched himself in the face, telling himself he could not be soft-hearted, thinking this was nothing compared to me. So he picked up the dagger once more. The boss saw Sang Jin approaching him and begged for mercy.
promising supplies.
But Sang Jin could only think of one thing.
Why had not I asked him to stay?
Did I only value people who needed protection, but rather someone who can fight by your side in danger? Seeing you grow stronger should not have sparked fear, but a resolve to grow stronger alongside you. Could we have continued this journey together then?
So?
If I were not this weak, would not have been left behind. Will prove to you that I can become strong just like you. If I use these thugs to catch up to your footsteps, you will surely look at me in a whole new light. With that thought, he began absorbing Taesung's runes.
Stepping on his own shadow across the shattered bricks,
His dagger hung low at a slight angle,
Looking like a sliver of frozen moonlight.
or a tongue that had not yet licked away the blood. Those crimson marks were like curses branded on the ground,
Layering thicker with every step he took.
until his silhouette dissolved into the misty gray haze ahead. The girl just let out a sharp scream toward the sky, unexpectedly causing the swarms of flying beasts to plummet instantly. It was not because she knew some lion's roar technique, but because of the mysterious rune I handed her moments ago.
Once absorbed.
It grants the user
A skill similar to a shockwave.
Just then, a monster that
Slipped through the net, lunged at her while she was distracted.
Luckily,
Arrived in time to cleave it in two.
embarrassed.
She remarked that I had helped her once again, picked up the rune from the ground and said, her skill inherently had a fatal flaw.
So assistance from a teammate was absolutely essential.
After dividing the runes, she looked at me,
and the pile in my hand.
which was far larger than hers, thinking I was incredibly precise in splitting the loot. Then she opened her information panel to check her status. We have been here for 3 days already.
If she had not bought those skills from me to rapidly increase her mana and stamina, she probably would not have been able to keep up with my pace.
In truth, she did not want to rely on me this much, but her own strength was simply not enough. Also opened my information panel to check my stats. Although agility and perception are difficult to increase, have already raised both attributes above 42, but it is still best to keep all ability scores maintained at a balanced and similar level. Suddenly, a broadcast voice echoed through the sky, telling all of us to gather at the starting point, and that anyone who arrived late would be punished. Recognized it as the sprite's voice, turned around and shouted for her to hurry up. Along the way,
Meishi
kept glancing at me as if she had something to say.
Had already noticed her behavior,
so I told her to just speak her mind.
But her face flushed red before she could even open her mouth.
Finally,
she steeled herself and asked if I had a girlfriend.
could not help but shudder when I heard the question.
After asking, Meishi's face was as red as tomato juice. She wondered if asking so directly was too sensitive, even though she knew she should not have. The more time we spent together, the more she felt I was kinder than I looked. Seeing that I did not respond for a long time, she nervously began picking at her fingers. Thought to myself that in the very beginning, she was too terrified to even speak to me, trembling and pondering for ages over the smallest question. But now,
she dares to ask me just about anything.
If it were Zhang Tai,
he would definitely
love it if she asked these kinds of questions.
for a girlfriend.
Although I have not met one in this life.
I cannot afford to lose her again.
So, in the end, simply told her that I could not remember, and she did not press me any further.
To find out what I exactly meant by that, shortly after
we arrived at the starting point. Quite a few people had already arrived ahead of time. Although it was the exact same group of people, the atmosphere now was vastly different from when they first arrived, seeing that almost everyone was there.
The sprite finally appeared.
When the crowd saw this demonic entity, their nerves immediately tensed up. Then the sprite announced it had brought 2 pieces of good news.
The first was that if everyone could just hold on for 72
more hours,
they would be able to leave this place.
But after it delivered this news, the crowd remained in dead silence. So it asked,
Is not this a very happy occasion?
Why is not there any cheering or applause?
Have not you all been wanting to leave?
Yet the crowd still remained completely silent. The smile on the sprite's face
abruptly vanished as it asked,
is there really no reaction at all? Seeing this, everyone hurriedly clapped and cheered.
Although the smiles on their faces were incredibly stiff.
Next.
It said it wanted to let everyone meet the main attraction of this event first. With a snap of its fingers, the ground around us suddenly began to shake violently. Second later,
massive structure
appeared out of thin air right before everyone's eyes. The sprite introduced it as the magic altar, saying there was a very cute pet waiting inside for us, and that this pet's name was the carnivore beast.
to play with you all.
have starved it for a whole day.
So right now, it can't wait to rush out.
When the crowd saw the monster behind the sprite, they were all terrified to the point of breaking into a cold sweat.
The sprite continued.
Although this altar looks grand, it is not very sturdy at all, and it looks like it is about to be smashed open once this big baby comes out. Who among you survives will depend entirely on your own skills.
Next,
We'll announce the second piece of good news, which is the method to put this guy inside to sleep. If you can truly make it sleep, then you should be safe.
Right.
Then it asked everyone to guess what this method entailed, saying whoever guessed correctly would receive its blessing. Seeing that everyone remained completely silent, the sprite complained that they were truly a boring bunch. So it just went ahead and announced the method, which was to simply feed it 5 people every day. So over the course of the next 3 days, we would need to prepare at least 15 people. Hearing this, the crowd was furious because the sprite did not treat them as human beings, but they were completely helpless to do anything about it.
Did a quick count.
There were currently 60 survivors, meaning a quarter of the people had to be sacrificed, just to keep that thing in a deep slumber. The sprite added that feeding the beast was entirely up to us. But before we decided,
it wanted to show us a video.
With another snap of its fingers,
massive projection
appeared right above the crowd's heads. The monster in the video was indiscriminately attacking the people on the ground. Anyone it managed to grab was instantly stuffed into its mouth. The sprite explained that this was from another tutorial zone, where everyone had decided not to sacrifice anyone, and instead chose to fight it out. After watching the footage, the crowd felt that it was absolutely impossible to defeat such a monster, which meant there was only one option left.
Soon.
Someone raised their hand,
asking the sprite how the sacrifices should be chosen. The sprite casually replied, use force to subdue them.
Or draw lots.
Whatever works,
Just figure it out amongst yourselves.
do not care about the details, but there's one thing you must keep in mind. You can only sacrifice living people, and you must make your decision within an hour. However, you will be safe for the next 24 hours, as long as you decide who to sacrifice within the 1 hour. Following that 24-hour grace period,
You will be fine.
after the sprite vanished, everyone began cursing it again.
Beside me.
She asked what I thought we should do.
Simply told her that the result would be the same regardless.
Before she could ask me what I meant by that,
Little Red Riding Hood interrupted everyone,
saying,
Let us make it fair and draw lots.
How about that?
if we draw 5 people every day.
We can guarantee that everyone else stays safe and sound.
While everyone was pondering this,
A man asked.
Be what, right?
Meishi looked toward the voice and was shocked because the person speaking was none other than Shang Zhen. Shang Zhen took a step forward and asked again.
Why should we choose the fair route?
Behind him,
he was followed by 3 other people.
Little Red Riding Hood asked what he was saying.
if he misheard,
Shang Zhen walked toward him, saying,
we have no reason to uphold fairness here. Little Red Riding Hood snapped.
You, kid. Do you think you have a better idea?
if you do not.
Then stop trying to show off.
Shang Jin did not answer his question.
Instead, he walked over to a utility pole,
Then,
with just a slight exertion of his hand, unexpectedly snapped the solid steel pole right in half. Looking at the shocked expressions on everyone's faces, he finally explained. There is a very simple method, which is to start picking from the weakest, those who can't provide any help at all.
When the crowd heard his
Proposed method.
No one dared to step up and object.
This reaction left Shang Zhen feeling extremely satisfied. It seemed that as long as he obtained
power. He would hold absolute authority.
and with that,
He began his speech.
before us, 7,100 people have already gone missing.
You all should know that when facing monsters or people whose strength far exceeds our own,
Fighting completely alone is hopeless.
Right.
Not to mention that if we do not offer a sacrifice, we will have to fight that massive beast inside. So everyone must work together as on. He then looked at Little Red Riding Hood and said,
right now,
we do not need useless people like you.
so prioritizing the sacrifice of the weakest among us.
Should be the best solution.
Should not it?
Finally, he looked at me and asked what I thought.
He figured that I should be able to understand him now.
That he was no longer the weak and incompetent Shang Zhen of the past. He also felt that he was different from Tai Chung. He did not want to be my enemy.
He wanted to help me.
Having gained strength.
he clearly knew
That if he managed to survive here,
he could live a life completely different from his past.
for that,
He also needed my assistance.
he believed I would certainly make the correct choice that satisfied him. After all, this proposal of his was absolutely flawless. Listened to him and first noted that it was indeed a good method.
But then I said I also wanted to make a suggestion.
As long as you all do exactly as I say.
Every single own of you can survive.
That way.
We won't need to sacrifice anyone at all. Upon hearing this, the crowd instantly erupted into discussion. Little Red Riding Hood spoke first, saying,
If you are.
thinking of dragging us all into a fight together, that is completely impossible. It was not hard to see from the video just now.
Exactly how terrifying that monster's combat power is.
Even if we use human wave tactics, we won't win against a beast that recovers its stamina just by swallowing a few people. Interrupted him right there. Who said I wanted you guys to fight? Little Red Riding Hood asked in shock. Then what? Are you planning to fight it all by yourself? Gave a slight smile and told him.
You guessed right.
After hearing that, the crowd simply did not believe a word I said. They thought it was nothing more than a fantasy. However,
Some people recognized that I was the own.
who had slaughtered more than half the goblins in the first round, their convictions began to waver slightly, thinking that perhaps I really did have a chance.
At that moment,
A bald man stepped forward to remind everyone. The massive beast we are about to face next, on a completely different level compared to those goblins. He then pointed at me and said,
If you can't eliminate it within an hour,
it could end up getting everyone here killed.
And right now,
we only have 49 minutes left.
When Shang Zhen heard what I said, his face instantly darkened once again.
He thought he was finally about to catch up to my footsteps.
But he never expected that I might already be strong enough to take on a monster of this caliber entirely alone.
When I clarified that, although I would deal with it, could not do it right at this moment,
Shang Zhen's expression suddenly brightened up again.
he thought that even I must need some help right now.
So he hurriedly stepped forward and declared that he was willing to fight alongside me in battle, but I decisively rejected his offer and told him flatly that he would only get in my way. Gritting his teeth,
Shang Zhen asked me what exactly I wanted.
Meishi looked at me, thinking to herself
that this time
probably would not take her along either. Thought about it for a moment and said,
as long as
I can raise my stamina and strength 30 points higher than they are now.
Then I can deal with that guy all by myself.
So my proposed method is this. You all contribute your own runes?
To let me boost my stats so I can kill that thing. Everyone fell completely silent after hearing this. They all knew that would require a total of 60 runes. Should everyone chip in together?
or should they only force?
The weaklings, who might be chosen as sacrifices to pay up, just needed to boost both my strength and stamina to 100 points, and get my agility and perception to 50. Combined with the cloud cookie,
would be able to fight it.
in my past life, regarding the second hidden fragment, even top rankers like Cadian,
Serenities. Serenities.
and Jang. Tai had no idea how it was supposed to be obtained, but it was eventually secured by the Mad Monarch.
Clementine.
Yet rumor had it that even an insanely powerful guy like him
nearly lost half his life just to barely subdue this very monster.
Then I told them that it did not matter who gave me the runes.
As long as the stats were met,
would immediately enter the altar, because the longer we delayed,
the worse it would be for everyone. The bald, middle-aged man started to panic when he heard this.
so he hurriedly tried to persuade the people around him, telling them to quickly hand over their runes.
Or that even drawing lots would be fine.
But he completely ignored Shang Zhen's previous proposal.
At this point,
A red-haired woman stood up and called him a truly selfish bastard.
If we pick the weakest people to sacrifice,
You would definitely be the first on chosen. Why the hell should I give up my runes for you?
Runes are incredibly precious.
Just being short.
By own or two makes a massive difference in strength. Have you never absorbed a rune before?
Is that why you do not understand the gap it creates?
You weakling. The bald man initially wanted to snap back at her, but when he saw the red-haired woman place her hand on her weapon, he immediately chickened out. He backed away while stammering.
just because you are
strong.
Does that mean you can bully people however you want? Is there no logic or fairness in this place?
The red-haired woman replied,
Since you want fairness so badly, let us just put it to a vote.
Let us see if everyone else is willing to give up their own runes to save a piece of trash like you.
Or if they would rather sacrifice you to put the monster to sleep.
She also suggested that in the interest of absolute
fairness,
everyone should cast their votes anonymously. Then the bald guy ran over to me and said that with my current level of strength could absolutely just rob them of their runes to get stronger. But before he could even finish his sentence, fist slammed directly into his fat face.
Little Red Riding Hood grabbed him and yelled,
"Everyone is trying to survive right now."
How can you be so incredibly selfish?
Watching how they were acting,
Silently sighed. Just like in my previous life. None of them knew how to compromise.
should have known it would turn out exactly like this.
It looked like I still had to step up and control the situation myself. So I ordered all of them to quiet down. We'll give you all a solution.
Then,
Swiftly pointed out the 15 weakest people in the crowd.
Those I pointed out were instantly submerged in sheer terror.
They asked if I was truly planning to sacrifice them, but I asked them in return, while everyone else was working hard.
To hunt monsters,
What exactly were you doing?
None of that is my concern.
though,
But you must bear the consequences of your own actions. You are not being cast aside because you are weak. You became weak because you failed to keep up with everyone else's pace. We are already in a place like this. Are you still expecting to be spoon-fed?
If you want to live, the 15 of you.
We'll each go and borrow 2 runes from the others.
that is my proposal.
During the remaining 72 hours,
You can pay back the borrowed runes by hunting,
if anyone fails to pay back their runes and chooses to run away,
You can come tell me.
And I will pay it back for them.
Of course.
if any of you have the guts to try that,
Be my guest.
with half an hour left on the clock, entered the altar alone. Outside the door, Miu Meishi was the only on left standing there.
At that moment.
Shang Zhen walked up from behind and asked her,
if you are so worried,
"Why did not you go in with him?" If you had asked, he might have agreed.
Hearing this, Meishi's face turned slightly.
add as she replied, you still do not understand, Henshu.
Shang Zhen took own look and thought, "What the hell are you blushing for?" Meishi then admitted that she really did want to go in with me.
But she knew she could not just hide behind my back forever.
So Shang Zhen asked her what she planned to do next.
Was she just going to wait out here indefinitely?
Meishi decisively answered with a firm no.
She said that if she just waited around here like an idiot,
She would definitely get heavily scolded by me when I came out. In order to be able to keep up with my pace, she needed to take action immediately.
Shang Zhen then asked,
Well,
Why do not you?
Just come along with us.
Then,
If the others see that you are joining our group,
they would be absolutely thrilled. Miu Meishi turned around, gave a slight smile, and thanked him for the offer. But right now is not the right time.
"Can I give you my answer a bit later?"
with that said,
She turned around and walked away.
Watching her retreating figure, Shang Zhen could sense that she had not just grown stronger mentally, even without seeing her actually fight,
Shang Zhen could tell that her overall strength was much greater.
than it was the last time they had met.
Shang Zhen clenched his fists and silently swore to get stronger quickly.
He had to prove that he was someone of value. Just then, the red-haired woman led a group of people over to Shang Zhen and said they had something they wanted to discuss.
seeing this,
Shang Zhen instantly raised his guard and asked what it was about. Then a man stepped out from behind them, introduced himself as Park Soo-yeol, and told him there was no need to be nervous. He then pointed to the people standing behind him and asked if Shang Zhen was their leader. Upon hearing the word leader, Shang's body trembled slightly. Then he said a bit shyly,
those are just my friends.
"But they do tend to listen to what I say." Park Soo-yeol immediately flattered him.
Does not that make you the leader then?
You are really impressive to have such strong friends.
Finally.
He noted that since Shang Zhen was acquainted with me, he wanted to have a chat with him regarding matters concerning me, flattered to the high heavens. Shang Zhen happily agreed. Meanwhile,
Right after I had stepped
inside the altar, began sorting through my equipment.
Goblin poison was definitely not going to work on it anymore.
So I figured applying a paralyzing poison would be a much better choice this time. Then I pulled out a string of beads known as the Flying Cat. When this particular item is kept in an active state, it continuously restores a small amount of stamina. This was also a reward I had received from a recent hunt, since its effect required it to be activated in advance. Swallowed it without a second of hesitation. However, if I truly wanted to defeat this beast, relying on just these things was far from enough. It looked like I was going to burn through a lot of cloud cookies this time. Started by popping Own into my mouth and chewing it. Instantly, that long-lost sensation surged through my entire body.
Following that,
The color of the runes inside my body began to change. When a rune's value exceeds 100, it takes on a color, thereby transforming into a higher tier rune,
They upgrade in order
starting from colorless
to red,
then to orange. With yellow being the highest tier, opened up my status panel to take a look. Strength and stamina, thanks to the massive boost from the cloud cookie, now had a bracket next to them labeling them as colorless, and their numerical value had reset to 0.01, even though strictly looking at the numbers, 99.9 on a normal rune, and 0.01 on a colorless rune only differ by a tiny margin. But the gap in actual power between the two is massive. That creature was never meant to be
a monster you could fight in the beginner tutorial area.
Therefore, needed to upgrade my runes to the colorless tier at the very least.
If I could somehow absorb that giant monster's
essence,
could definitely one-shot a creature like that.
It really makes me realize that the mad
monarch is an absolute lunatic.
But there is something I am absolutely certain of,
which is that so far,
only one person has successfully obtained the hidden fragment. After coming to this damn world,
The very first truth I understood was that
the harder a task seems to complete, the more generous the rewards will be.
So,
must risk it all in order to survive. With that thought, leaped into the air, soaring straight toward the monster's head. The monster sensed the anomaly behind it and abruptly whipped its head around. And right at this very moment, a group of people also stepped through the altar's portal. The person leading them was none other than Park Soo-yeol. The last own to enter was Shang Shen. After everyone had stepped inside, Zhen yelled for them to hurry up and help. The scene shifted back to my battle with the carnivore beast. After dodging one of its strikes in a flash, my expression instantly turned dead serious, because I knew it was preparing to unleash a skill.
Monsters like the carnivore beast all
possess their own unique racial skills, and there are 2 racial skills the carnivore beast can use. The first own is called Fear. It can paralyze its prey using the oppressive aura released from its gaze. Then, it uses the Devour skill to swallow its prey and rapidly restore its stamina. When the carnivore beast thought it had already paralyzed me and swiftly lunged forward, instantly broke free, dodging backward in a flash. Then, I quickly jumped back to widen the distance between us. After observing these past few exchanges, realized its attack pattern had not changed at all. Fortunately, it was still just a sub-adult. If it could also use the ability to absorb living creatures' blood through the vampiric bog skill, definitely would not have stood a chance. The carnivore beast smashed its fist into where I had just been standing, continued to dodge while looking for an opening to counterattack. Even though this needle-like weapon in my hand could not deal any substantial damage to it, still knew the most effective way to attack and defeat it.